This is it. All random, all mid. Wait, what? Are these cards? Wait, hang on. What the hell is this? Alright, here we go, guys. These are Freljord cards. Out of nowhere, surprising all of us, the Howling Abyss. It might just be this landmark. Round start. Create in hand a random level 2 champion that's not in your hand, deck, or play. Okay, so I'm out of breath right now. In the YouTube, it's gonna look kind of weird. To Tatus, probably he didn't edit it in, but I just did like 115 jumping jacks or something. I'm just gonna do some jumping jacks. Jumping jacks are actually so easy. I can do like an infinite amount of these without getting tired. I thought push-ups, push-ups, they're very difficult. They're very hard. And then yoga, you know what? It actually gets old very fast. But jumping jacks, I'm literally impossible to get tired doing these. Whew. Fuck. That's why we're out of breath. Okay, so let's talk about how this card is nuts. It's a really funny card. So, random level 2 champions. So what are the level 2 champions? So level 2 is flipped. Every champion, so it's literally any random champion in the game, right? So it'll literally create any random champion in the game starting on turn 8. It's a really funny card. I can definitely see people ramping into this. It's no champ deck. I mean, you can definitely you can rule out the targets for this by having specific champions. You would run this in like a Trundle deck as a turn 5 or 6 play depending on whether you draw 1 or 2 ramp tools. I'm going to come back to this later. I really want to look at them all first. This is really good, I think. It's okay. This is really, really hard to say. It's going to be like a really wonky War Mothers, right? It's effectively like a War Mothers that you play early, although it has a decent chance of getting you something useless. It's really hard to evaluate because we have to go through and think about all the champions. A lot of them are really bad. This looks like a really fun card. I do love this card. This is going to be just really hilarious and fun to play. There's going to be some stupid shit happening with that. Voices of the Old Ones. Get 2 empty mana gems. For the top 4 cards in your deck, draw each card that costs 8+. Then shuffle the rest of your deck. 2 empty mana gems. So, holy shit. What? So, on turn 7... On turn 7, if you have 3 banked spell mana, but they're empty gems, so you can't play War Mother's Call off of this, because you can only get empty mana gems. On turn 8, if you play this with 2 banked spell mana, then you can War Mother's Call next turn. So there is a way to do that. The ability to draw cards that cost 8+ is not as good as it seems, because mostly at this point in the game, for any deck that's trying to behold big, like a Trundle deck or a War Mother's deck, whatever, you usually just want to be pulling them from deck or using your mana on really, really high value impact stuff. Drawing them really isn't as valuable, right? Because you can't really afford to spend your mana on something that big there. I'll talk a little bit more about this card, but it's probably not as good as it might look. Sneaky Zeebles. What? So this is a Targon card. Stun enemies with 2 or less power, and it's an elusive card. It's an elusive 3/3. That's really interesting. So this is a nice way of potentially getting rid of elusive chump blockers. Mostly you'll see a ton of cards like Zap Spray Fin is super, super common right now. There's Shadow Assassin isn't really seeing too much play right now. But to be honest, Zap Spray Fin is actually a super big deal for something that's holding elusives back right now. because the most competitive decks in the game are all running Zap. There's so much Bilgewater Noxus right now, and the ability to just have that like free chump blocker usually saves you like 6 health. So Sneaky Zeebles is kind of adorable. You can use it with Yasuo. Yasuo Targon is already a bit of a thing. I know it sounds like a huge meme, and I know, look, listen, I don't think Yasuo Targon's the best thing ever, but it is better than people think, and with a little bit of support, it could actually make sense real fast. That being said, I don't think Sneaky Zeebles is that support it needed, but it's a card that could make sense in a deck like that. Crystal Ibex. Is it Ibex or Ibex? The like mountain goat thing. Grant an ally overwhelm. Whoa! So this is a 4/4/4. Pretty well statted already. It's Grant, which means it's a permanent effect. And it doesn't go on the stack. There's no dot, which means for both of these don't go on the stack. They just happen immediately, right? So they're like, you know, Bright Steel Protector. They're that kind of play effect where they just happen and the opponent doesn't get a chance to respond. Zenith Blade Keck W. Yeah, I think if you're trying to give an ally overwhelm, overall this is probably better than Zenith Blade. And it's also better than like Augur. I mean, Augur is not an efficient way of getting things overwhelm either. Zed and Lee Sin got a buff. Zed doesn't really want the overwhelm as much. Zed is more looking for the stats, and that's what Zenith Blade helped it out with. I don't think you're going to want to use it with Zed, but you definitely could see this hitting like Lee Sin decks, potentially. I mean, depending on how they work out. Zenith Blade ends up being pretty good in those styles of decks. I don't think you would run Crystal Ibex over Zenith Blade in exactly that deck. But this will open up Overwhelm in other decks that are looking for it. I think this could be good in like Targon Demacia decks, where a lot of Demacia cards really do need the Overwhelm. This is so nuts. It's hard. I can't imagine like the best deck to actually use this in. This card looks super powerful. Like, we have never really seen a 4/4/4 stat line be as competitive. For whatever reason. There's been a couple of them in the past. I think this might be kind of like the first 4/4/4 that ends up making it. Imagine this with Genevieve. Yeah, that'd be really sweet with Genevieve. Is that it? Is that all the new cards today? Let me go ahead and double check. Okay, so an overview. Chump was a 4/4. Oh, but that was a very, very long time ago. Okay, yeah. Old Chump before it got nerfed. Yes, that was a 4/4. You're right. It's like ARAM. Yeah. Yep. No, Howling Abyss is straight up like ARAM. Okay, so Howling Abyss is actually a really crazy card. When we compare this to War Mothers, we have to evaluate how good this is, right? War Mothers, usually you can bank spell mana, so you can play it as early as like 9 base mana.
I'm basically 1/8.
You can play this as early as 7 without the bank. Yo, welcome back, Loth. Howling Abyss is the ARAM map? That's really funny. Oh, yeah. I didn't make that connection. That's right. I haven't played a ton of League. So Howling Abyss is actually... oh, God. How good is this card? At 7 mana? So, like, when you look through the champion collection, how many of them... It summons a leveled up champion. Like, even a lot of the weak ones end up being good there. And when you compare it to War Mothers... When you're comparing it to War Mothers, you still will get a lot of like fairly weak things from War Mothers too. Right? Create in hands. Oh yeah, it creates in hands. Yeah, that's a big difference. Sorry guys, I'm really tired. creates in hand is pretty weak. It's really funny. Right? Mostly you're just getting weak stuff. Here, wait, let me see. I actually have to go through the, I'm going through the collection a little bit. I want to just kind of take a random survey of the champions. It's a really funny card. You'll get one that's not in your deck, which is kind of awkward because it does mean you're locked out of some, on average. Leveled up Ezreal. Yeah, you just get leveled up Ezreal. It's a meme card. You get a flipped Asol, Heimerdinger. It's such a crazy card. But yeah, the fact that it puts it in your hands is a gigantic disadvantage compared to War Mothers. it doesn't have the deck building cost that War Mothers does. And it basically starts at turn 7. I do think it's not going to end up competitive. But as far as meme cards go, it's actually not that bad. I see a lot of people in chat saying it's like complete garbage. It's probably not going to be competitive, but it's actually, I think it's better than some of the actual garbage things we've seen. It would be okay as a one of. It's going to be really hard to evaluate this card without playing it out. Or like, you know, counting up all the champions and which one of them are going to feel good and which ones of them are going to feel bad. Leveled up. Fiora does nothing. I think for the most part, about half the champions at least are going to feel pretty bad to get. Which is the thing that keeps it more in the meme territory than anything else. But it's definitely the funniest card. It's definitely like Elise. Yeah, you're going to get like, when you look through here, let me go back to the game. When you look through, my camera's just going to stay here for the time being. But you're going to, you know, you're going to get stuff like Fizz. Stuff like Teemo. Which, like, hang on. Wait a second. Wait, getting a leveled up Teemo is completely worthless. Because they won't have any puff caps in their deck. A leveled up Teemo is actually going to be worth less than a level 1 Teemo. Wait a second. Hang on. You're going to get stuff like leveled up Elise. Even like leveled up Diana doesn't really do much outside of Nightfall. You know, on occasion, if you get like a leveled up Katarina at that point of the game, that might actually literally be game winning, which is really, really, really funny. You can get some, you know, high power levels. Leveled up Twisted Fate is obviously gigantic. Leveled up Lee Sin. Like, if you get a champion that's hard to level up and costs more than a couple mana, at that point in the game, that can be really crazy. Gangplank is on average the best to get randomly. That could be true. I could definitely see that. I would be more inclined to say maybe something like TF, but it could be Gangplank. Yeah. It's quite interesting. It's a great meme card. I'm a fan of this as a meme card. Alright. So, that's my stance on Howling Abyss. It's actually not as bad as it looks. Voices of the Old Ones, I think, is going to be a little awkward. You could get Maokai too. It feels like most games would still be ending by then, unless you had a specific deck that was like out-grinding and just like spamming multiple ruinations. Getting a level to Maokai is pretty funny. So Voices of the Old Ones I do think is going to be a little awkward. Again, the thing about decks like this is you really just don't want to be drawing the expensive cards. Like, you can't actually, you're never going to have enough mana to play a bunch of like 8+ mana cards at this stage in the game. So this one definitely looks a little bit on the weaker end. You can play it as early as turn 4. This on turn 5 is pretty good. It's really hard to say. So you can play this on, if you're using your full mana pool. If you have played Weirding Stones and Weirding Stones exactly, and if Weirding Stones lives, it can't be Catalyst because Catalyst takes too much mana. But yeah, you can play this as early as turn 5 if you play either Weirding Stones or the other one, Faces of the Old Ones. The only problem is, like, that would only ever be good in a control mirror, basically. Because it's going to be a complete brick against any other matchup. But if you do that, I mean, it is a good card in the super slow mirror. In something like the War Mother's mirror, whoever has Voices of the Old Ones is going to be at a huge advantage, right? You can always play this turn 5. Sorry, I'm at turn 4. I misspoke. Yeah, you can play at turn 5 normally. It's only turn 4 that you need it for Weirding Stones or Faces of the Old Ones. So you go to like 8 mana as early as what? Turn You can get a 8 mana on turn 5 if you have played Weirding Stones and this. And then you get the mana back. You get like the full mana on turn 6. It's definitely not going to be a completely useless card. It's mostly a tech card in like super slow mirrors. Like if you're taking something like a War Mothers, and if you're teching for like slower decks that have no pressure, I could definitely see this in tournament lineups with bans as well and less aggro. This is gonna be this is much more of a tournament card than a ladder card for sure. On ladder, you're often gonna get pretty pummeled if you try to play this, but it's definitely not useless. We're probably gonna see this card being run in some tournament lineups. The difference being that in tournaments there's less aggro because you can ban it out, and because you might want something that's going to be targeting like control-y mirrors. Sneaky Zeebles is really funny. Unfortunately, I don't have huge faith in this card's ability, and this is just a very weird card. Like, it's trying to be an elusive, but not really giving elusives what they need. Elusives really don't want to stun enemies. It's, you know, a little bit of like a Yasuo synergy card. One thing that's really interesting is I do think that Fade Blade Twirler Targon is going to be a really, really funny deck. A really, really, really funny deck. Honestly, like, you might run Yasuo in that deck, but I could even see an argument to not even running Yasuo and just making it a Fade Blade Twirler deck. Fade Blade Twirler is a card that, okay, Hush might get nerfed or something like that. We don't know. They did mention they were gonna do something to make it like just one target and not repeating or something like that. But Fade Blade Twirler, basically, the fact that this can be a combo kill, if your opponent can't do anything about it, if you have, you know, some cards like Deny and some cards like Bastion, unironically, Fade Blade Twirler, especially with the new Overwhelm card, the new like Ibex card, could actually be a really interesting, like, kind of cheesy OTK deck. That's a deck where you'd run Ibex over something like Zenith Blade, probably. And Fade Blade Twirler has been kind of waiting for its time to shine. I think people have been kind of like, you know, you do need to build it as like a pure combo deck. You might need a little bit more draw consistency. I feel like that's the one thing it's missing. But as a cheesy combo kill deck, it actually almost has all the pieces. And that's kind of the one thing I could see if we're trying to fit Sneaky Zeebles into a deck. That's the one thing I could see Sneaky Zeebles doing. Maybe fitting into a combo deck like that. Because it's Targon, you already might be in Targon for like Bastion and some of the other stuns. And on top of that, you know, it's not super expensive. It's not like more expensive than, for example, Deafening Roar. So it's kind of like a Targon Deafening Roar that's a little bit less effective, but it's not deniable, and it also comes with a body, which is nice. Overall, not high potential. And then there's Crystal Ibex. Crystal Ibex is definitely better. We need to think of what kind of deck Crystal Ibex will fit in best. That's kind of the biggest question, because this card looks pretty great. Typically, you really do want to fit this in somewhere it's going to be able to play on curve. The best way to play this is something like Reckless Trifarian on 3 mana is a really good way to fit this as well. Let's go to Reckless Trifarian. This is kind of like the only 3 mana card where Reckless Trifarian is really going to be good. It'll be good in Dragons. There's a very good chance it'll be good in Dragons as well. Dragons kind of already have a lot of turn 4 plays though, from what we've seen already. You can use it on Lucian. Yeah, giving Lucian Overwhelm is really good. Greenglade Caretaker. Greenglade Caretaker. I don't know if you can be in Targon in a Caretaker deck. Because, like, Crystal Ibex it has to be a pretty good card. It has to be a pretty good card. But it's really hard picking the best deck for them. Diana can sometimes get a lot of attack. I think that for the most part, you don't want to be using Ibex on things that get a ton of attack. Horns of the Dragon. Yeah, it's really good in the Horns of the Dragon combo kill deck. The only problem is that deck would probably prefer to run Zenith Blade. Soul Scroll is pretty funny. Ancient Crocolith. That's a little too specific, I think. It's gonna be like really, really clunky and hard for that to happen reliably. Shiraza. Yeah, there's Shiraza as well. Shiraza and Soul Scroll. So the question is, here's the question. Is Crystal Ibex actually going to be a competitive card? Or is it going to not really have a home? Vi? Yeah, it'll be good in Vi. It'll definitely be better than Zenith Blade in a deck like that, I think. For if you just want to give Vi Overwhelm. That might be the best thing I've heard so far. I think for now, in terms of like when this patch releases, and we don't know what dragons will look like. When this patch releases, I expect it might not find a home right away. It's pretty good card. I think it'll see a lot of experimentation, maybe fizzle down, and then eventually, this card will certainly hit competitive decks eventually. This is a really powerful effect. There's a lot of things that really want Overwhelm. Zenith Blade is good on Vi. Zenith Blade is fine on Vi too. I think this might be better in that style of deck though. Okay, so and here's the final question. The one final question is, what champion are we getting tomorrow? Are we even getting a champion tomorrow? Because the way they've done it traditionally is they alternate between giving like, you know, the champion package. They give the support cards and then they give the champion the day after. Given this, it looks like they're just showing kind of like a bundle of random cards. It looks like we're probably not getting a champion tomorrow, would be my guess. And they're just kind of skipping a day in that normal cycle to give kind of like the cards that are left out and don't belong to any champion. Would make the most sense. Zoe. It's too random. Soraka or Zoe. I think what'll happen is we'll get no champion tomorrow, and instead we'll get a bunch of cards from either the Soraka or the Shyvana packs. It's got to be Soraka and Shyvana. It has to be. And then the next three, 2 months later, have to be Riven, Victor, and Zoe, I think. Zoe is random, though. I mean, it is, yes, it's true that Zoe is very random. But it, like, you wouldn't tease Zoe just by doing a bunch of random cards. That doesn't even make sense. Like, she's still going to have some kind of archetype, right? Shyvana for sure. Yeah, I think Shyvana and Soraka have to be next, just because they're the ones that have been built around already, and they're like, basically they've revealed all the Soraka and Shyvana support cards. They're already in the game, right? And they're just waiting. They're just waiting for those champions to be in. They're just waiting. All right, guys, that's it for my initial impressions of these cards, though. Is it just these four? Yeah, these 4 cards. Pretty light day today.